name is Vauda Fogelman. I was born and raised in Prairie Hill, Texas. I was from an early age, and for all my life, we lived in town. You go through Prairie Hill now, and you would think, well, that wasn't a big deal to live in town. But it was, because it was a thriving town. Prairie Hill, during the early 30s and 40s, had 4 grocery stores, 3 filling stations, which we called them filling stations. They weren't service stations, they were filling stations. There was an ice house, there was a barber shop, and then there was a post office, and there was a telephone company there. The main focus was farming. There was Blackland Farms, and primarily they raised cotton. There wasn't much raising of cattle back then. The cotton was a big thing. In Prairie Hill, we had 2 cotton gins active at the time that I was growing up. I was told that in the earlier days there was 3 cotton gins, and when it became the fall, Prairie Hill was very, very busy day and night, because the farmers would bring their cotton in late in the afternoon, and then they would stand in line with their cotton, and they would gin all night to get the cotton ginned up, and then they would start over the next day. But the cotton gin and the farms was the reason that there was a town there. After they quit raising cotton, they started more or less cattle raising, and then of course after the war came along, a lot of people moved away from Prairie Hill, and then the town over the years has just died away. We had a telephone company. We had a little house that sat, and one lady ran this telephone company. And she had, my sister was one of them, worked as an operator, and they worked sort of shift work. And I remember that our telephone was one long and one short, because anytime you called on the telephone, you had to go through the operator, and she had to dial this. And of course, you listened to people's conversations, and they listened to yours over the years. Also in our town, and one of the things that was very important to all of us, was our church. We had 3 churches. We had a Baptist church, a Methodist church, and a Church of Christ. We went to the Baptist church, and this was an important part of our life. My mother took us from the time we were born, and we went to church. Daddy didn't go with us, but we did go to church. And today, the preacher at Prairie Hill Baptist has been there, I think about 65 years. And he came to Prairie Hill to pastor that church when I was 14 years old. And he has been there ever since.
Miss Fogelman, is he still there?
Yes, and he's still pastoring there.
Oh my goodness.
And he is the age of my husband. He will be 85. His next birthday.
I swear.
One thing that I remember back in the 40s during World War II, when we had prisoners of war in Mahia, out where the Mahia State Supported Living Center is now, Daddy would come out and get the prisoners, and they would send one guard with them, and I would come with Daddy to pick the prisoners up, and we'd take them back. We had Daddy had a truck, and we'd carry a load of prisoners to Prairie Hill, and the prisoners would work at the corn shelter all day. And it was against the law to give them anything to eat, but Daddy bought them summer sausage and cheese and crackers every day, because they loved that. And he would buy it for them, and they would eat. That's what they would eat for their lunch every day. And years after that, the prisoners kept in touch with my dad, and they would write him if they happened to be coming through this area to see the where they were kept captives, prisoners of war. Then they would come by to see my dad. So that was always interesting in the later years when the prisoners would come by. During that time, Highway 84 that goes out of Mahia into Waco was not a road, and you had to go through Tawakan and you had to go through Coolidge. And I can remember sitting on the side of the road, because we lived right on there in town on the highway, and sitting there for hours just waving at the soldiers on the convoys coming through, transporting them in their trucks. And sometimes they would throw us candy, and we would be so excited because there was an awful lot of those convoys that came through right through, Prairie Hill. During this time, they built what is now the racetrack in Prairie Hill, but it was a runways for James Connelly Air Force Base out of Waco. And what they did in training their pilots, that was used for the pilots to land and to take off, and land and to take off. And this all during the daytime hours this went on. They came right over our house, because our house was right in the path for them to descend and to go land on the runway. And it was just a constant thing all day, and they were very, very low down when they got to our house, because they were fixing to land, then they would take off, and then they would come around and they would land again. So this, I don't know how many years that they trained, but it was during the war of World War II. So this was always a big thing with the kids, for the soldiers to come through, and for the big bombers to come over, and us to get to look up and see those. Had a good life, as all of us did. We didn't have all the things we have to eat today, but we were never hungry. We usually had beans and cornbread, and I've seen a lot of times that we would have mush, and it was different in the growing up, because you think, oh, well, y'all were poor, but we probably were by today's standards, but just keeping in mind that everybody in that community was poor. It was not affluent. We did not have a lot of church socials during this time. We belonged to the Baptist church, and the Baptist church then was very strict. My school teacher, she was a member of our church, one of them, and she also was a school teacher. And she taught us right from wrong. We didn't drink, we didn't cuss, we didn't smoke, and that was what was expected of us all of our lives. And needless to say, when I got older, I didn't drink, and I didn't cuss, and I didn't, and all these things. But she was very sweet to us. But she also taught us right from wrong when we were in school. It wasn't necessarily at church, but we just knew that they didn't believe this, and so we just didn't do it. People in this area were very friendly. We helped whoever needed help, and then you just did what you could. People were honest. Their handshake meant they were going to do it. You didn't have to worry about whether they was going to do it or whether they weren't. And it was very important to love God and to know that He was the one that was the ruler of it all.